masturbation for manifestation.
Choiwee, can you just masturbate for my manifestation? A holistic sexologist on an entrepreneurship podcast? I'm glad you asked.
There's been an attempt to suppress it.
Absolutely.
Because it is fucking powerful. I started having quite spiritual experiences. I started seeing all the cracks. Now I'm feeling what it's like to be in my body and understand my trauma through a lens of compassion. It went from not feeling safe at all to fuck yeah, now let's play.
Choiwee Moon shows us why your body, pleasure, and power are the secret weapons every founder needs.
When we work with sexual energy, it has the same side effects. Chemical releases that happen in the body, floods of movement, of pleasure, within our body. We can start playing with that.
Settle in and get ready to meet the parts of you that'll make you unstoppable. I'm feeling the things. My body is speaking to me. How do I know?
This is a perfect segue into... Here we are.
Here we are. Hi, Choiwee.
Hi.
Welcome to the Powerhouse Diaries. This is a conversation I have been dying to have, and I know a lot of people are confused, maybe in like a female entrepreneurship podcast. Why am I speaking to a somatic therapist and holistic sexologist? We'll find out. To be continued. But first things first.
Yeah.
I'd really like you to take me back to the moment where you realized you had to become the villain in everyone else's story in order to save yourself, basically.
Yeah. To find myself, I think, would be more accurate for my story. So I created the white picket fence life. I really did, because it was so far away from what I had known, so far away from the childhood I had, from the relationships I saw, from the ways of living that I had been exposed to and all of my early experiences of life. And so at 19 years old, I met a really safe, stable, kind man. And then I had 3 children with him, and we got married, and I got my university degree, and I was ticking all the boxes for what it is to have the perfect life.
Yeah, because that's what we're sold.
That's what we're sold.
Yeah.
And especially when it's something that you didn't experience, and when your experiences were really fucking painful, it's like, if I can have this perfect life, then I won't experience pain. Then I'll be able to live in happiness. Then I will find peace and love and joy, and I'll love myself.
Oh my God. I feel this in my core. I think we spoke about this the other day when we saw each other. For me, the story is like identical. I feel like we're identical twins on opposite sides of the world. 15 years of marriage also came from the complete opposite reality. Yeah. So that was the dream. And it's that. Then I'll love myself.
Then I'll love myself.
Oof, that cuts deep.
And so because it is so deeply ingrained that I'll love myself if I create this life, then clinging on to that is like clinging on to something for dear life, right? You hold so tightly, and when you hold so tightly, you don't see the holes. You don't see.
You don't want to see the holes.
You don't want to see it, and this is what we know about the way that our programming works and the way the brain works too, is that we will not see the things that take away from that thing we're trying to hold on to so much. And so I started seeing the cracks, and it was the most painful experience of my life, because I got to a point where I realized I had to walk into the complete unknown. I had to walk away from something that on paper was safe and was comfortable and was secure and was all the things that I've been craving as a little girl, as a teenager, as a young woman, and as the life I wanted my children to have, with 2 parents that love each other and they're together. And I remember thinking, like, I'm so glad my kids get to have what I didn't have. And then I had that realization of, like, I'm about to destroy everything because I can feel it. I can feel it, and I don't know what it looks like on the other side of this, but I know that this isn't my truth.
Oh, but what gave you, because I mean, resonating, but how did you know? Because you say, you know, this has been an idolized situation. This is your synonym for safety. There is the mum guilt. How did you find the clarity to take that step?
As soon as I started lifting the veil, and that came through a deep dive into personal and spiritual development. So it came through starting to read books about psychology, starting to look at programming, starting to learn about energy work. You know, there was all these things that started landing, and I started having quite spiritual experiences. And as soon as the veil started coming up, I started seeing all the cracks. I saw the way that, you know, in the relationship with my ex-husband, we were strangers, and I saw the way that I was sitting there in deep pain and that he couldn't see it. And due to no fault of his own, he didn't have the skills and the capacity and the willingness at the time to be able to be in a deep partnership in the way that I saw it could be. And then I started having like these very deep, incredible friendships and connections that were growing outside of this, and they'll be so energetically attuned to me. I'd have a friend in another country that within a second would be like, hey, what's up? Like, I can feel you're not okay.
And someone right next to you is completely missing it.
Yeah, the polarity started becoming very, very clear. And there were signs. There were very clear signs that started hitting me. And you know when you start getting those signs, and they'll be really subtle, and then they'll scream at you. And I just remember being like, I cannot live in this. And that was coming back to what the origins of the question is I was like, I am going to disappoint so many people. I'm going to hurt so many people. It was actually said to me, like, I'm ruining my children's lives. You know, there were so many things. And the trust that I had to have in something higher than me, in a bigger plan, in there being happiness and joy. I had these visions of my kid's dad being so happy in another relationship. I started seeing these visions of my children being so happy in these other ways that we could live. And those were the bits that really held me onto and gave me that faith and that strength. And then I left the marriage, and it was painful. It was a catastrophe. It was 6 months. What I wasn't prepared for was the level of pain and grief and turmoil and resent and struggle of what that time period was going to look like. Like, my babies must have been like 6, maybe just 3, not quite 3, and 14 months old. Yeah, really little.
Wow.
And then my nervous system wasn't ready for how much I was then going to be holding as now living as a primarily single parent with 3 young babies while working full time and trying to grow businesses outside of that and trying to survive. So that period was absolute just survival.
Yeah.
Just survival. I was in autopilot the whole time, and living with all of the family seeing me as the bad guy.
The judgment.
All of the judgment. So many people like, we would never have suspected you, and like, what was wrong?
Suspected you.
Yeah, you know, like, you were
evil.
you were the perfect couple. Everyone's like, you guys were the perfect couple, you know, and you were the perfect family. And it's like, now I'm like, you know, I spent my whole life trying to attain perfection. It was a theme for me my whole life of trying to attain perfection.
It's also a way to find safety, or the illusion of safety, right? As long as I can control everything and have all my ducks in a row. I don't care if they're actually not a duck. It might be a pigeon.
Put it in a row. Put it in a row. Put it in a row. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and so it was breaking up with this part of me that had clung on to the woman that I wanted to be, and going like, oh my gosh, I went there and I couldn't find happiness. So where the fuck do I find happiness? You know, and there was so much uncertainty in that, and so much fear in that of, now I am, like you said, for me, it was finding myself.
Yeah.
I remember coming out of that and I was like, I don't even know what kind of music I like.
Oh my God.
I don't know, because I just lost myself in this image of who I had tried to create myself to be.
Yeah.
And who we had tried to create our lives to be, and how much I had also like molded myself around this relationship and this man.
Oh, girl, don't get me started. I remember vividly one of the scariest moments of my life, and it sounds ridiculous, was the first weekend I was home alone. Oof. The first weekend my ex-husband had the children. It was a very chaotic, crazy time. And I had the house to myself. I was like, I was also with him since I was 19. So I don't know who the fuck I am. And I opened the fridge and I was like, there's nothing in here that I actually like to eat. And I was like, oh, but I'm by myself. What do I like to eat?
What do I like to eat?
I couldn't answer it. And it sounds ridiculous, but it was terrifying. I was 35 years old. I could not answer the question, what do I like to eat, on such a basic level. That's how disconnected I had been living. And I think that brings us really beautifully to why I'm so happy to have this conversation, because you were saying the first steps into the personal development world, into spirituality, it wasn't about what you were learning. It's about getting in connection, in relationship with something bigger than you and with yourself. Yeah. And when you start to allow yourself to feel and to be in your body and in your life, not just in some image you've created, careful what you wish for, you start to feel all of it.
Absolutely.
So how, in that first period, obviously you say survival and yes, girl, how did you, from that knowing, that decision, the judgment that came with it, move into a place of congruency within yourself and being safe enough in your body to move?
I leaned so far into the path that I had started, which was a deep dive into somatic practices, a deep dive into understanding my own trauma, you know, which for me was around attachment, like deep neglect and abandonment from my biological mother, and deep pain that I experienced and that I witnessed, and that which goes very far back in our generation through that line. And so I have always loved learning, right? I'm a teacher, like my degree was in teaching and education. I've loved learning. And I honestly think it was my passion for learning that kept me going. Is if I can just like read a couple of pages of this personal development book, if I can
I'll be okay.
If I could just be curious about myself, like maybe I can understand why I put myself in that place. You know, how I got there, and now how I get to wherever the heck it is I'm going from here.
Yes.
And at the essence of that, really the foundation was my babies. I couldn't not keep going because of my babies.
No.
You know, and
it's a blessing and a curse.
Absolutely.
Because you have no other choice. But some
no
days
choice.
you're like, how?
How am I doing
Just
this?
circling back really quickly for anyone listening who is less familiar with the jargon. Somatics?
Yeah.
Tell us what that means.
So soma means body. So when we look at somatic practices, they are really anything that has to do with the body. When we look at somatic healing, we're thinking about energy work, breath work, somatic experiencing. I'm trained in a modality that's called embodied processing therapy. So we work with the nervous system and the subconscious at the same time to essentially process trauma, trapped stress cycles, emotions, through sensation and emotions. And so for me, it was originally energy work, and then breath work, but practices that were helping me to be inside my body, because we live in a completely neck-up society, you know, where so much of our experience is, and we're thinking about the future, we're reliving things from the past, you know, we're going to all of the what-ifs or the can-dos or like all of this, and every single moment that we're in those places, we're not in the present, which means we're outside of our body. And so I was really blessed, but also definitely was diving into bringing myself into communities of like-minded people. I really leaned into community at that time. And then practices, you know, not long after that, I did my Reiki level 1 attunement. So I really started diving into Reiki as a form of energy healing. And that's what kind of kept me afloat. But I was only just afloat. And I'm talking for years. Like I spent years and I'm just here. Like I'm welcome. Like years of that, and then the real deep dive into. So now I'm feeling what it's like to be in my body and understand my trauma through a lens of compassion, as opposed to fucking deep shame and pain. Then I came into the place of so how does it get to be inside this body? How does it get to be when I let myself feel pain and pleasure and joy and ecstasy and connection? And how does my body feel when I experience miracles actually like viscerally? So it went from not feeling safe at all, clinging onto the experiences outside of me to feel safe, to landing into now I'm here, I'm in the present, and not always, but I'm in the present, to fuck yeah.
Now let's play.
Now let's play. Yeah. So then it was like, it's been the last few years of like, now let's play and let's get really real about what we can experience in life, which has now led me into the work that I'm in and the relationship I'm in, and the parts of me that get to be here.
Yes.
Because they didn't have any space to be here before.
It's such an important thing, because when you say we live in a neck-up society, like this is why in all my programs, in my coaching and everything I do, everything has a somatic and energetic aspect to it. Because, you know, the thing is, we think we can mindset our way through everything, right?
Can't affirmation your way out of everything, right?
But it's true. And it's like, I think like even in the personal development world, there's a lot of talk about just habits and mindset and just reframe and just change the narrative. The thing is, if you don't have a nervous system that can hold the new shape of you, the new identity you're trying to step into, it's never going to happen. It's like when people win the lottery, who've lived in poverty their whole life and then lose it immediately. So that nervous system work, that body work is so important. The Powerhouse Diaries is for and by like Baddass, the most amazing female founders. I've been doing this for a long time, but when I first got introduced to this, I was like, this is woo-woo. This is bullshit. It made me super angry because my safety was in like, I understand everything. It's in my mind. That was the first step. The second step was, how do you get anything done? Because I feel everything now. So for people listening who are like, okay, that sounds really awesome, but
that's cute.
It's cute, great for you. And I kind of see why it's important and that it's ridiculous that we're not taught this. But like, where do we start on a like low to medium woo level?
Let's start with dispelling the word trauma. That's a really good place to start, because there is a connotation even with that word that is, it's like, oh, it must be a serious car accident, or it must be that you had like child abuse and all of this. And what we really are going to benefit from understanding as a society is that trauma in a wide context, because this completely relates to this conversation, has to do with the nervous system and our stress responses. And I would challenge someone to bring me a human that has not experienced some kind of stress response or nervous system dysregulation in their life. And when we talk about working with the body and feeling safe in the body and somatic healing, what we're doing is unraveling all of those pieces. And that could be as simple as, say you're in a classroom when you're a child and you put your hand up and the answer is wrong and people laugh at you. What is then threatened in that moment? Because as humans, we're not only hardwired for physical survival, we're hardwired for community survival, because that's how we live and thrive. In that moment, the community's been threatened, our identity's been threatened, and there's a stress response that comes online in the body. And you will feel this if you've had an experience like that. And it often will be and it will often get caught up here in the chest and the breath, sometimes down in the digestive system, because everything's come online. We get sweat that starts to happen because there's oxygen that is trapped in the body in that moment. Like, these are survival instinct responses that have to do with the amygdala. And it's very scientific. So I'm actually a health teacher at an intermediate school, and I teach this because we teach about what stress is actually. And so when we look at it from that context of when we experience experience any kind of stress, and yes, there is also acute trauma. There is also developmental trauma.
Yeah.
There is also precognitive trauma, you know, and there's trauma that can occur in the womb even. Yes, all of those things are real, but it is when we experience life, because life can create these stressful experiences. And so if we do not have the skills and the understanding of being able to complete those stress cycles that have come online in the body, we are walking around with trapped stress that is living as an energy within our bodies, and then it will display as physical things. It will display as diseases. It will display as beliefs that will come in. It will come up in your relationships. Like when you have nervous system dysregulation, even on a very low level, it will impact everything. It'll impact how you show up in business. It'll impact like how confident you are, because it's a body response. And there's a time and a place for something like talk therapy, 100%. We can work with reframing. However, if we do not address the unmet needs and responses that are happening within our body, then there is only so far that we can get with it. And this is what I say to people. I'm like, if you take this journey down into being able to process and move through what is here for you within your body, imagine the version of you that gets to exist.
Yes.
Because there's so much freedom. There's more access to pleasure in all of the forms of pleasure. The sunsets become more beautiful. The food becomes more vibrant in flavor. You know, the level of connection becomes deeper. And those things are accessed through your sensory system, which is directly related to your nervous system.
And it's so like the thing that really pushed me over the edge. This was like far into my studies, so I was already a convert. Yeah. But when we are in a trauma response, so when something kind of triggers that like button of, oh, remember when I raised my hand and now I think it's safer to just be invisible because otherwise I die. Yeah. When a trauma response gets triggered in our body, our rational thinking capacities go offline. It's just offline. Like they're just not like biologically not available because you know, in the old days, if there is a saber-toothed tiger, you have to run and not be rational or logical. So, you know, when you're talking about people walking around in like a constant drumbeat of stress and low-key trauma responses, like imagine what is available to you just in clarity and logic. Imagine, you know, you're doing really well, right? You already have an awesome business and it's really cool. And imagine you have this like board of directors and they're fucking badass. They all have their expertise. And there's 3 or maybe 4 if you include your higher self, but maybe let's stick to the body. There's 3 people on that Zoom call with you. One's your mind, one's your body, and one's your emotions. But your body and your emotions are on mute and they are like yelling, but you can't hear them. And imagine what happens when you start unmuting them and honoring the input from all 3. You still can you can still only listen to your mind. You won't, but you could. The amount of data available in your life and in your business when you start tuning into your body, it's so wise. So wise. So wise, and it's constantly attempting to communicate with us, and the choice for us is whether we listen or not. And if we do not listen, the screams will become louder. And that will look like, you know, when we're talking about women in business, that will look like breakdown. You know, it will look burnout. Like insomnia, burnout, physical pain. It will look like symptoms of autoimmune, you know, like when we look at the work of Gabor Mate, when we associate emotions and physical symptoms that come from it. And truly the way to become sustainable is to be in this beautiful relationship, like you were saying. And, you know, when we look at self-reclamation was coming up so much when you were saying that, you know, when we start to honor our intuition, because we are these vessels of creation and intuition and internal guidance as women. If we really understood that superpower, do you know how much easier life gets? Do you know how little I make decisions from up here? Do you know how much my decisions come from my body? And it'll come up and I'm like, oh, there's a contraction or an expansion. Sweet, that's what I'm doing. Oh, stop, pause, drop into that, because, oh my God, this is the conversation I have over and over again with my clients around, okay, I hear you. I will start learning to, first of all, hear my body. Forget listening. First, I need to like get quiet enough and attuned enough to hear it. Then I might hear it and still ignore it for a while because fucking scary, because we're taught that we have to understand everything. But okay, now I'm playing and I'm feeling shit, right? But excitement and nervousness, anxiety, is the exact same frequency. It's the exact same feeling in the body.
Response in the body.
Exact same. So how do we know? Okay, there's this big decision. Do I go left? Do I go right? Okay, I'm feeling the things. My body is speaking to me. How do I know?
This is a perfect segue into pleasure.
Yeah. You're welcome, guys. You're welcome. I'll be here all day.
Honestly, so we have our physical bodies, we have our energetic bodies, and this is science. This is science, friends. It is science, right? We are an energetic vessel. We're an energetic body as well. And then we also have our sexual energy, and this has been spoken about through so many different cultures, through so much of our history.
Then entered the church.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was all gone.
And the suppression of the feminine, and sex is wrong and pleasure is wrong, and not even just wrong. You will be murdered. You will be murdered. Your sisters will be murdered. Your children will be murdered if you were in your sexual expression. And I think it's a really important part within this conversation for us to honor as the feminine, as the collective of women, is that if it is not you, which it probably is, I highly doubt there's many women today that have not had comments that have been negative connotations around our sexual expression, around our bodies, or people have attempted to have power over our sexual energy, whether it be through sexual abuse or other ways. If it is not us, it is our foremothers, or it is other women within history that have been severely harmed because of this connection to our sexual selves.
What really just blows my mind when I think about that suppression is how powerful we must be as women when we are connected to that, to be enough of a threat
that they want to kill us.
Yeah.
And they did kill us. And there are still women today that their lives are being taken because of the power, the innate power that lives within us. And I drop in this conversation because, first of all, it's really important that we understand not only his story, but her story. Because there's a lot of books that will not actually include the femicide that has occurred and on a wide scale for us as women. And also I drop in this conversation because if you are an individual that is starting to maybe play in that space of tapping more into your sexuality, and there's contraction around it and there's fear around it, that's okay.
Yeah. That seems like an appropriate response if we've been murdered for this.
100%. That's okay, and you are not going to be hurt today. There is nothing no one can do to you today that is going to create the fear that is coming up within you. And it's really important. And the next step after that, and I do preach about this, is if we are living in a time and an age where we have the ability to access more power within us as women, and more expression and creativity and more abundance and more manifestation, when there are women right now in this time, and there have been so many women before us, who the fuck do we think we are not to?
It's our obligation.
I feel as if it's a sense of responsibility.
Oh, I actually love that perspective.
Yeah.
We'll circle back to pleasure, I promise.
Yeah.
But before we go into pleasure, can we talk about shame?
Oof. Because they go so hand in hand.
They do go hand in hand. And, like you say, women have been persecuted over time, and in this timeline.
Yeah.
And that's like on an extreme macro level. But we have so much shame, and often internalized shame around sexuality, around, not even sexuality.
Our bodies.
Pleasure. The fact that we experience pleasure is on some level perceived as
wrong.
Yeah. So can we talk about shame, toxic shame, internalized shame?
Yeah. So I'm 34, and what I remember about my experiences as a young woman growing up in the world is magazine covers that are photoshopped with all of these these photos of women that were like the ideal woman. So my earliest memories are of like, this is what it is to be a perfect woman. And if we fast forward in the last 30 years, right, what we have seen is multiple industries that thrive off women feeling like shit about themselves.
Yeah.
Women hating their bodies, women wanting to change their bodies, women not aging, women not being fat, not being thin, not being this, not being that. And so we are living in a time where there is so much shaming of us within ourselves.
And then we haven't even done anything yet.
We haven't even done anything yet. That's just from externally outside
It's just
of us.
existing.
That's existing. Us as women existing, right? And then a lot of women will have experienced unintentional comments from other generations before us that simply didn't know how to navigate conversations around our bodies, around puberty, around sex, around pleasure. There's so many missed conversations. And so I think there's generations of people that we've been in circumstances where like serious harm has occurred when we have leaned into our sexual expression, or when we have maybe showed a little bit of our body. You know, we're in an incredibly harmful survivor shaming culture. So I've spent a lot of work in sexual harm prevention, and a lot of my clients specialize in sexual harm, and the shaming culture around sexual harm survivors and themselves is,
what were you wearing?
Exactly. What was she wearing? Why was she there? Why was she drinking? Or he? Why was he there? Because males, prevalent sexual harm happens in that space, right? And so
there's even less room
absolutely
to share.
Yeah. And so the shaming that comes out from all the external places, and then the other part of it is the competition and comparison game that has been integrated into communities of women. And I remember, like, and they still do it now, like, who wore it better, her or her?
I know.
Right? And these, like, let's constantly compare women, you know, or like, oh, his ex-wife was like this and now she's like this. And it's this competition.
Yeah.
Or like, she's more successful, or she bottle fed, she breastfed, she home birthed, she, like, all of these things that then create this internal shame of if I was more like her, or if I was like that. And it's something I really am big on reminding people when I facilitate spaces, when I'm in spaces, you know, I the space we were in the weekend,
yes.
I had one of the women come to me and she said to me, she goes, how did you get here? And I said, it wasn't that long ago that I was so afraid to come into these spaces, and I didn't have this confidence, and I didn't want to show my body. And like, it was me not that long ago. Please don't compare yourself to my now.
No.
When I have walked in the places you've walked, and I just want to help you become whatever version of you want to become. I don't want you to become like me. Like, I'm me.
And that's such a powerful realization. And the funny thing is, you know, I know these things. This is what I do for a living. Yeah. And I had a marketing agency for 10 years. So I know how to fucking spin a story. Yeah. And still we get stuck in like comparison. And I think this is why it's so important we have these conversations, because we look as founders, just bringing it back specifically to being a female entrepreneur, there is an essence of comparison. If I was only more like her,
more successful, more money,
exactly,
have that husband, have those holidays, more beautiful, more confident, more well articulated, more creative. Like, we could just go on and on and on.
Well, and what that leads to is people kind of outsourcing their sense of self and their power, trying to be like whatever guru or influencer or whatever is being put out there. Getting further and further from connection with yourself, and it's not working. Of course not, because it's not true, but it's such a it's a slippery slide.
Yeah, and it's so sneaky. And, you know, to be completely authentic in it, like, I 100% still have like regular moments where I will see a woman and it'll either be their body or how much money they make or the lifestyle they're living or like the milestones that they hit. And I get this like, you know, and I'm like, oh, you know, and I feel it in my body.
Yeah.
And
so what do we do?
Yeah, so what do we do? So let's normalize that, first of all, the fact that it doesn't make us wrong for feeling judgment against other women. It doesn't make us wrong, and it doesn't mean that we're not so far along the path, or that that we then have to shame and guilt ourselves. But what we can learn to do is acknowledge it, and acknowledge it's not something that we want to participate in.
Yes.
You know, so I'll feel it come on, and then I'll shake, I'll move, I'll maybe, you know, bring some things into my body just to help my body feel safe enough in that to then just go, okay, I'm feeling that. And you know what I'm going to choose to do, because this is the bit I get to feel autonomous about, I'm going to send some fucking love to that woman. You know, I'm just going to energetically go, I love you. Like, I love this. I'm supporting this. We are in this together.
Yeah.
We are in this together. Your magic does not compare to my magic. We're all needed in creating a revolution.
Yeah.
You know, embodied women
we write it
need
down.
it. You know, we're part of a movement, and it looks different for everyone. We need the woman that like gonna fuck yes, are going to make so much money and abundance. So then they can distribute that, and they can make choices that are going to help people down the track. And we need the mother that is never going to work another day in her life, because she is raising the next generation that is so important. Like, all of that is vital, and all of the stages that we go through are really vital. And when we see ourselves as a collective more than this like individualized experience in life, then we learn to celebrate more, right? And we learn to trust more, and we learn to move into the different places we're going to go into in life and go, cool, this is what this chapter looks like. And I'm here for it. I'm going to celebrate all the other women or people or whoever it is, and whatever their chapter or expression looks like. We're not all meant to be the same. And also in this, you know, said, how do we get there? I'm going to bring it right back to working with our bodies.
So shame comes up, or judgment, and that you feel that we go back into our bodies.
Go back into our bodies. And that will be something that might be really confronting and really challenging. And if it's really big body responses, that's when I will always say I'd recommend work with somebody that is trained in somatic therapy, because they'll be able to help you. Potentially there's some really deep programming or events or experiences that have happened, usually in earlier life, that have led to that. I know for me this has been such a big challenge, because my deepest pain in my earlier years of life was from my biological mother. And so the woman wound was really deep. You know, my early belief systems was, I can't trust women. I can't trust women. Like, I don't feel safe with women. And I only have myself to look after, and I have to just look after myself. I can't rely on anyone. And I think a lot of women are in what they would maybe believe is strong independence. However, there potentially are aspects of hyper-independence because we've only learned to rely on ourselves. Whereas the beauty is when you find other women like yourself doing things like this, where they truly want to raise you up and like love you and celebrate you. You don't have to do it all yourself.
No, and also to learn. Like, I feel like you're talking about these like different stages. And in our Western society, we've lost so much of the magic that a lot of indigenous cultures still celebrate around, like you're like having elders and people in different stages of life and celebrating that. And
I know. Let's bring it back. And we grieve together, and we bleed together, and we raise our babies together. And so it's not about going back. It's about bringing the wisdom and the ways that worked very cohesively and very well, and
into the here and now.
Them into the now.
It's like almost as if I completely agree and building a powerhouse playground where we do exactly that. Oh yeah, what an idea. I love that. Okay, let's go. Let's move on to pleasure, because I want to, because I know we're going to run over time like by a million. So I just, because that is something. Okay, we've had the conversation. We know we're starting to listen. Maybe we're starting to feel. Then all the things we feel, we know how to kind of breathe through it or to seek support. But you know, feeling into what is one thing. And as you said, allowing yourself to experience pleasure and then seeking it out as a tool almost, as a segue, as a shortcut to life.
To everything. Manifestation.
Talk to me, baby.
To creating the life of your wildest dreams. So the first piece within exploring your pleasure body is getting to know you. Like starting to get to know you.
Not the performative version that was, I know, it's gross.
Like, no, not the version of you that you think you need to be. Not the version of you that pornography tells you to be. Not the version of you that mum and dad and grandma have said you should be. Like really starting to explore. And this is what I love when we look at sex through the holistic lens and really informative lens, is that we are all hardwired differently.
Yeah.
So we have different ways of sexual expression. You know, you look at the erotic blueprint types. We have different desire styles. We have different ways of being. We experience pleasure differently. And the greatest thing you can do is start to explore that for yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's looking at like self-pleasure, for example, which is a great way to start. I always think reclaim your own pleasure before expecting it from others.
Well, it's true in every other area of our life.
Exactly.
We accept that you can't demand or ask something from someone if you are unable.
You don't even know.
You don't know. Like I don't even know how to ask. So how, like, are they supposed to read our minds? We can't even read our own minds.
And this can be really beautiful. You know, it's like starting to notice if you like environments that are really quiet, or do you like music on to start to breathe into your body. I'm not even talking about like full on vagina clitoral stimulation. I'm talking about just being in your own energy and in your own pleasure. You know, do you like sensory things? Do you like massage? You know, or do you like baths? Just starting to play around with sensory things that begin to feel really good and nourishing to you, just to you, and be creative about it.
And
you know,
feel
feel it. You know, that's the essence of it. And then all the pieces that come after that is, yes, looking at our sexual selves, looking at the way that we can experience orgasm. And it's not about getting to the orgasm. There is no final destination. When we look at exploring pleasure, it's about being in it. But starting to get to know the things that you like, you know, and if you are then in relation, looking at the ways that you like to experience pleasure from another, the way that you like to. So being really curious. Curiosity is the piece around this, and being open to what the experiences are. I think the breakthrough points for me in my own reclamation and liberation within myself as a sexual being have been times when I have not planned to have those experiences. They have happened very organically. Like, I remember I was in this really beautiful container with two women that I know, and it was all around self-empowerment. We used somatic tools, and I was at home by myself, and we were doing some breath work, and then I was, oh my gosh, what is that? What is this fire within my body? And it was the first time I experienced pleasure through breath work. And I just went with it. And I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to fucking let this happen. And had like the most, like beautiful floods of pleasure and energy and ripples of orgasm running through my body. And I was like, oh, hey.
This is a fun new party trick.
I did not pay for this. But
I'll take it.
But I'll take it. Yeah. And it's been for me like pushing the edges of what I think I know about myself, you know, which has led me personally into like BDSM and kink scenes and working with pain and pleasure. And, you know, I was a Shibari rope bunny for a long time. But all of it has been done through what else is there here for me to experience within my body and within my energetic field? And that's been by myself. It's been with others. And then the next part is
we're going to level up again.
Consciously. And I believe that every single person can begin to access this level of conscious play with sexual energy. It might not be a smooth journey there. And people think that mine has been because of who I am now. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, no. I was like, I didn't even orgasm for the first 4 years of my sexual life. You know, I never could ask for what I wanted sexually in most of my life. I have definitely not partnered up with the best sexual partners in the past.
No, but if you like your safety is outsourced to, you know, the white picket fence story, like there is such existential fear that comes up when you even think about maybe hypothetically, potentially considering asking for something or expressing something because it might rock the boat, and that boat is life.
Absolutely. And this is the piece that I really want to integrate around the direct correlation between our sexual self and our communication and voicing and speaking our truth and being able to be so sure of ourselves that we can ask what we want and need in all of life, because there is a direct correlation between how much pleasure we allow inside of our bodies and how much we can be so authentically in our not caring that we're the villain in someone's story, right? But just like so working with sexual energy, I really want to land this point is that in a similar way to what I spoke about when it comes to these somatic practices, which are about the nervous system, they're about stress responses, okay? This ain't woo. When we work with sexual energy, it has the same side effect. We have chemical releases that happen in the body. We experience floods of movement, of pleasure, you know, within our body. And so we can start playing with that. You know, I literally manifested my life through going into meditation, breath work, and conscious pleasure practices with very intentional visualizations. There is so much research we know about the way that we can bring in visualizations, but then the sensory experience of what it is that I'm calling into my life.
It's just that on crack.
Exactly. By being in that heightened state of arousal. And like, I literally have friends that would ask me, like, hey, so if you could just go into your self-pleasure today and just drop this little thought out of this thing that I want to bring in.
It's like the Trevi fountain. It's like, here's a little corner. Shall we? Can you just masturbate for my manifestation?
Exactly. Masturbation for manifestation. And it's so true. And it works on a physiological level because we're at a heightened state of openness. We're at a heightened state of calm, of relaxation. And so working within those energy fields is where we amplify creative energy, where we amplify abundance energy, where our heart spaces can open up more. And being in that state, we will, like, the RAS system in the brain will be looking for more things to feel good about. You know, the more we feel good, the more we're looking for things to feel good about. We notice things, we see opportunities, we meet people that are also playing in those spaces. You know, it transverses between the energetics and the physical existence in a very powerful way. And so, of course, there's been an attempt to suppress it.
Absolutely.
Because it is fucking powerful.
If people are listening right now, and they're still with us, which I'm not sure, but I am. I'm ready to go. What are, I would say, baby steps to integrating pleasure as a strategy for success in life and business?
Carve out some time that is self-care time. And that time, in whatever way you want it to look, is just about your body. So it might be massage. It might be simply lying down and taking some really nice breaths with some music playing. It might be a self-pleasure practice. It might be some like yoga that just allows the body to soften in, because there's two parts to this. There's looking after the sensory system and the nervous system through these tools, which is going to help you no matter what. The more regulated your nervous system is, the more calm you are, the more at peace, the healthier your body is on a physical level. But the other part is that you are specifically creating time for the care of your body and your mind and your spirit. And there is nothing that can go wrong with that. And there is nothing you can lose from that. And I get it. We live busy lives, right? I live a busy life. I've got a job and businesses and kids and all the other things. However, creating non-negotiable time for yourself, do it and see the ripples that it will create.
Yeah,
you know,
I also really believe it makes us more magnetic in general, because when we are calm, we are like, we also co-regulate with everyone we interact with, right? We have our electromagnetic field and we are human animals. We feel into each other. So when we step into a space from a regulated I'm home in my body. I feel good in my body. I have committed to continuously, quote unquote, proving to myself that I'm also worth.
I'm worth it.
Oh,
I'm worth it. I'm worth time. I'm worth my own touch. I'm worth my own breath. You know, I'm worth being in these moments. And you're right, it is magnetic. The amount of people that have done business with me and they'll be like, I don't even know what it is about. It's your energy. It's your energy that pulled me in. Like, it's the way that you move. It's the way that you are. It's the way that you speak so passionately. And all of those things are things that are flowing out from my body into the world. It's my energy field that comes out of my body. You know, it's my heart field that comes 6 feet outside of our bodies. That's science, guys. The energy around your heart comes 6 feet outside of your body. And so it's going, honestly, these tools for business growth, you know, if you're not doing things that are for yourself, that have to do with honoring this vessel that moves you around all of it, you will never reach where you want to reach. Or you will reach it, but what will it be worth?
Yeah,
what are you needing
what
to
cost?
sacrifice to get there? What relationships, what health, what sleep? You know, I'm a recovered insomniac. You know, coming out of my marriage separation, I was sleeping 3 hours a night, every night.
Oh, that's a legitimate torture method.
It's horrific, you know, and it was like these things to pull me back into feeling like I'm worth sleep. You know, I'm not coming from a person that has always felt like she's worthy of everything her whole life. I didn't think that I was worthy of sleep. That is actually what was the core of what it was. I didn't think I was worth of basic human needs. You know, I've gone through issues in my history of not feeling like I'm worthy of food, you know, not feeling like I'm worthy of all these things. And so when I say this, I preach it because I know that so many of us, there is just a subtle or loud underlying piece that has to do with deficiency or worthiness.
Yeah.
You know, so doing these physical things, and you know what you're saying before about you can be up in your mind as much as you're like, I'm worthy.
Yeah.
It will
repeat it in front of the mirror.
Totally. It will drop so much more effectively and efficiently into your experience when you're physically actually doing things that show that.
Oh, absolutely, because it's incongruent. Like it doesn't make sense. If you can, people are like, oh, just repeat this affirmation 10 times and therefore it will be true. Yeah. But if your body is contracting every time you're thinking it, not much is going to shift.
No, and it creates more division between the mind and the body.
And distrust within. Yeah. Oh my God.
And I'm going to say the final piece around this is the amount of business ideas I have had come through while
intended come through
either in my own pleasure practices or in intimate experiences with lovers have been profound. Like both there it is. It's not this forcing, like this very wounded masculine forcing to try and get the thing, to try and find it. It's there. Like, we're so intuitive, like we're so open, we're so good. Let ourselves be in that space of openness, and that is one thing that pleasure does. It opens up the body to soften and not be in such a controlled state, so then the drop-ins can come. Like,
so
all I think I'm like, oh my gosh, stop, I need to write this down. I heard a thing. No, hold on, keep going. There it is.
It's so true though.
So true.
It's so true. I literally had the conversation with my partner yesterday where I was getting all frustrated, and I'm just sitting there like squinting, trying to see something, and I just can't see it. I just need to fucking unclench. Unclench your butthole. That needs to happen. Okay, my love. Is there anything, before we wrap this up, that I haven't asked you that you believe is important to share before we wrap this part up? I promise, by the way, everyone listening, that we are going to create some awesome bonus materials that is really like practical, hands-on. Oh my God, the joke.
Hands in, hands over.
It sounds like I'm promoting our new OnlyFans channel. That's not what I'm doing. But some really practical tips to really help you step into this new paradigm. But that will be a separate thing available on our Substack.
Yeah. So I think the other piece that just flows on from this is the correlation between the health of your relationships and the health of the rest of your life, including you as an entrepreneur, you as a business owner. The quality of your relationships is so important. You know, this is why I talk always like conscious intimacy, conscious relating, and sometimes it will mean walking away, you know, like you and I have, from what we thought was the truth but isn't the truth. And what I do see a lot in our culture is the fear of loneliness and the fear of aloneness. And, you know, I had been in and out of relationships for about 17 years, from the ages of from 13, pretty much back to back, because for me that meant that I was worthy, right? That was the story. And then I intentionally went into 3 years of being single before I met my now partner, who I fucking fully manifested through my pleasure. Like to a T. He could not be more specifically what I manifested. It is wild. But I am not even surprised. Isn't
it crazy? You're like, it's shocking, but not really.
No, I'm not even. I'm just like, I have this phrase of never surprised and always in awe of what is
I
possible.
love that.
But the piece I really wanted to land in as this final piece is when we can develop a sense of being okay in ourselves, and that has to do with in the body as well, whether it's inside or outside of a relationship, then we have a much better platform for being able to dive into and sustain really conscious partnerships and also relationships. When it comes to friendships and other people's in our lives, and there is, again, direct science, it has to do with the quality of our relationships and the quality of our health, of our mindset, of our ability to perform in all of the ways. And you can do this within your current relationship. There are ways that you can expand and you can deepen and you can learn and you can grow together. I also see a lot of people that are in relationships that they have settled for because they're afraid of being alone, or for a number of other reasons, which will cap where you can go, like in your business, in your own desire for who you want to be in this life. Like, relationships are so important. And so maybe a reflection piece around what my current relationships are. Am I holding on to ones because of familiarity, because of safety? Are there conversations that can come into my relationships that will help to strengthen them and deepen them? Because there's so much healing that can happen in that place as well.
And I think that's so important to really preface, because it's not that we're here professing like torch it all to the ground, burn it all. I think there's a lot to be said for acknowledging where there is space to grow, but also knowing that there is enough potential to co-create that within that space. And if it's not, then you'll know as well. But exciting. It will be in the show notes as well, but really quickly, where can people find you if they want more showy deliciousness?
So my holistic wellness business, where I do my somatic therapy and coaching and Reiki, is Mama Chow Holistic Healing. Now, I'm based currently in the Bay of Plenty. However, I am going to be, by the end of this year, based between Auckland and the Bay of Plenty.
Just because you want to hang out with
me
more.
Just because I want to hang out with you.
Has nothing to do with Michael.
Nothing to do with my partner.
No.
However, all the work I do can be done online as well. And then you can also find me online, Mama Chow Wellness. I've just recently changed this. It's been a really good breakup. I was Mama Chow's CEO for years, and then it just didn't feel true to me anymore. And
it's a great example.
Yeah, it just didn't feel true. And I was like, actually, this feels much true. So Mama Chow Wellness, and I also have the Holistic Sexologist page, which is all specifically around the themes we've been talking about. And I'm a wedding celebrant, so if you do want to get married, married by Choiwee is me. I love weddings, so like, hey, and yeah, I do actually have 2 of my own podcasts. I'm not currently recording, but there's lots of really juicy conversations. One is called Sex with My Ex, which is a sexual wellness podcast, all on Spotify. And the other one is The Wisdom of Womanhood. So there's some really great chats in there as well.
Amazing. And also when you go to your Instagram, you'll have the whole link tree.
Yeah,
with all
the things are there.
It'll be in the show notes too, but just a little shout out. Choiwee, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yay.
this was so much fun.
So good.
Talk about pleasure.
No, my pleasure.
Yay.
Always.
Thanks.